Hot oil?
Yes, dude.
That's
So
a
that
felony,
one,
bro. That is
that one
jail
was bad.
time.
That was when I was.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to kNOwBS Podcast, the culture's #1 podcast for physical, mental, financial health. As always, my name is Quez.
My name's Todd.
Your boy Nick.
All right, so this week we're going to be continuing our introduction series. We're going to be going through mental health today a little bit. Gentlemen, you ready? It's time to get a little bit real with each other.
It's gonna be a doozy.
Yes, sir. Let's get right into it. So obviously we want to go through kind of, what we mean when we say health in each aspect. So this week is mental health. What does it mean to you when we talk about mental health? Start with Nick.
It just means that you're not depressed, worried about things you can't control. Like, you can live every day and not think that the world is going to end tonight just because I'm going through this problem at this moment. So to be able to do that, I think that's mentally healthy.
Todd, what's it mean to you, bud?
I think being mentally healthy, it means more that you have the correct tools and the correct routes to deal with any problem that is or might be. I don't think that necessarily being mentally healthy means that you're not depressed or anything like that, but if you are able to deal with it in an appropriate way, then that is being mentally healthy. Because not everybody's perfect. Everybody's still going to, especially nowadays, everybody's depressed, got high anxiety or something like that. But the problem is they don't deal with it. And I think being mentally healthy is the ability to healthily deal with those problems.
You hit the nail on the head. You're not always going to be happy. So,
Oh, no.
yeah, I don't want to come across as we're saying mentally healthy means that we're necessarily happy. Doesn't mean we're always in good spirits. It's okay to be upset about life, situations, people, relationships, whatever it is. Like, all that stuff is okay. It makes you human. I think our generation doesn't understand that enough, that, it's okay to be human. It's okay to process emotions and to feel things.
They put their pride into it, bro, so it's different. They need to take that out of this situation.
Yeah, definitely. Like, the whole stigma, like, men don't cry and we always got this brave face on and blah, 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 blah. We all grew up with that. We all grew up having to deal with that and the repercussions of that, what it means when we're out in public, around other people and, you are going through something.
Right. You don't know how to express it.
So even in private relationships.
But that started with as a kid, though, because most men that grew up like that, they teach their kids that. You're going to tell your son, quit being a baby. Men don't cry. Stop crying. Like, it's healthy to cry. Like, let that out.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a balance to it. Because, men are strong. That's who we are, how we are. If it's minor things, men don't cry. We deal with it. We be there. We be the support for people who can't deal with it. But there is a difference between a minor issue and a big issue, and it is okay to do that. So,
and they got to be aware that it's okay to ask for help.
That's a big one. I have trouble with that even currently.
Oh,
yeah.
Me too.
Hate asking for help.
Look, I'd rather figure it out myself and just go through it than to ask somebody.
Take twice as long to get through it.
Yeah, that's something we need to work on, though.
Yeah,
for sure. I think that brings up the question, why are we having this conversation today? Why is it important? Because it's very important, especially in today's age, that people are kind of have the awareness of mental health. It's starting to become more of a thing, but it's for a reason. So, why are we getting into this now?
Not why we're getting into it I think it's becoming more common because people are more likely to open up about it now. So it's not a lot of people pushing it to the back burner. It's nothing wrong with you. What is mental health? Like, just suck it up. So we just want to be a voice to say it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we all go through it. I deal with it. Todd deals with it. You deal with it. So if it's a place to get help, bro, just do it. It's healthy for you. You become a better human being in your own right for yourself. Not for nobody else, because nobody can help you with it, but they can help you along, like, get you through it.
And I think it's becoming more of a relevant thing, more of a talked about thing, especially with current events, whether they're, violent events like shootings or stuff like that. There's a lot of these people do have mental health issues that they are fighting with, and clearly they don't have a good route of dealing with it. Um, and the argument is, if they were able to get that help that they needed, then some of these problems could be avoided. So it's becoming a more of a forefront thing, trying to understand that fact. Um, which is messed up, but
Yeah, definitely. I take all that and combine it with the fact that we're in the social age. Social media is a big thing
Yeah.
these days, and it just kind of expounds on everything that before you probably could have hidden and kept to yourself, and it was a lot easier to suck it up and move forward. But these days, like, all your issues are on Front Street.
Yeah.
yeah,
So anything that you're going through, you're going through publicly, pretty much.
Yeah.
And it just has more of a it's taking more of a toll on people these days, and especially the younger generation.
Yeah. Social media is
Yeah, they're
terrible
like
though.
I was gonna
addicted
say
to
Like,
that
cause
stuff.
that's something I won't ever understand. Like, have your problems and deal with your problems, but the whole world doesn't need to see your dirty laundry. I mean, and half the people on there, they're gonna make you feel worse about your problems in
yeah,
the first
instead of
place.
trying to help you,
Yeah, they're just gonna make fun of you. They're gonna insult you
become
on
a
the
meme
thing
or
that you.
something.
Yeah, they get mean on there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do. Yeah, they do. And we
Yeah,
wonder
but
why we have so many issues. You're going through a struggle, and you're going through whatever situation you might be going through, and your whole school knows about it. There's
yeah,
pictures of it everywhere. You get
and
reminded
makes it
of it
worse.
constantly. Yeah,
Like, but people got to realize, like, everything you do see on social media is not real, man. Like, people are living fake lives. So if you're depressed about your current living situation and you see somebody that's on social media might be living it up for social media, but you meet them in person, it's not that.
Yeah. And
So
I've found, not all the time, but often, people that talk about having all this depression and really post it on Instagram or any social media, really, they're not really the ones who are struggling with it. It just the people that do not talk about it, that the silent sufferers, the one that put on a smile, and we've seen that in the celebrities and in the restaurant industry, especially. Big one was Robin Williams.
yeah,
He made everybody laugh. He always had a smile. No one would have ever figured he was depressed or fighting through all the demons that he was fighting through. And
until it was
unfortunately,
all over.
till it was all over, and then comes out. But that's the thing, the people who are talking about it the loudest are the ones that usually don't need the most help. It's the ones that you don't know that are going through it that truly are suffering.
all that kind of plays on. It takes a toll on more than just you. You know, that kind of stuff affects the people around you. When you're in that kind of silent bubble, when you're in that shell and stuff like that, and just take a minute to walk through some of the ways that you've noticed that it may impact somebody besides just you, because a lot of times that's what people think, is that they're dealing with it by themselves, and they can be strong for their families, not realizing that they're tearing down their families in the process. So kind of, but what are ways that you've noticed that that's happened?
I mean, prime example. I don't want to put all dirty laundry on Front Street, but like my stepdad, bro, like he has mental health issues. He has what's the personality disorder thing,
Yeah.
and on top of being in the army and having PTSD and all of that, but he wanted to be that I'm almighty, doesn't nothing hurt me, this and that. But you could tell it was something wrong, and he didn't want to get help. So he was suffering in silence, but at all the while killing the relationship between him and my mom, between me and him to my sisters. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't get me wrong, hard worker. You know what I'm saying? Good provider, but honestly, me personally, it tore our relationship up. Like, I don't like that man. No. And I used to love him. He used to be a father figure. You know what I'm saying? And I used to look up to him, but some of the things you do in that aspect like kills that, and I hate that. My mom hates it. Like, she can tell. Like, I don't speak to him when I see him. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's my kids don't. Like, and that really sucks because they used to love him, but they realized like all the things he was doing. You feel me? So, prime example. I can personal.
Yeah, it's kind of somewhat similar to mine. I think both my parents had their own trauma that never got dealt with, and it definitely came out growing up. They told y'all in the first episode when we were really young. My dad was doing well, but hit the financial woes again. Um, and that's when everything started to show. Where there was definitely a certain point that all of us kids could look at that relationship and be like, there is no love there. You
Mhm.
know, there's no it's seemingly there's no good feelings harbored between the two of you. And they wanted to stay together to provide a united front for the kids.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, what that actually did was just showed us like very unhealthy things for relationships.
Mhm.
So as we're growing up as a kid, as we're trying to formulate what a parent should be, what a father should be doing in a relationship, and even what a mother should be doing in a relationship, we were taught all the wrong things to do. And I had that conversation with my dad, and because he was straight up, he asked, he's like, how do you think that we did as parents? And this was, probably 6 years ago after we got in our fight and
Mhm.
made up. Um, and I told him that. I was like, well, I think that y'all prepared us very well for life because we know everything not to do.
Mhm.
We know every mistake to not make. But unfortunately, I found out a few years after that actually that doesn't do anything good because there's still about 1,000 other choices you can make besides the wrong ones that you know already.
Mhm.
And those might still not be the right choice. So, it's just been a struggle for all of us kids. My uh, oldest brother, he got out of it before really the trouble started happening. But my older brother had seizures because he was an alcoholic because he couldn't deal with it. He didn't have any coping mechanism that was healthy in any way, shape, or form. His relationship suffered. He couldn't keep a girlfriend just because he wasn't able to be a healthy individual in the relationship. And that's all stemming from, when we were kids. We never saw what healthy looked like. So that's what we learned. And even I experienced it. I was much more outgoing than my other brothers, so I had a lot more girlfriends that I was able to learn from,
Mhm.
whether good or bad. But yeah, it's a problem even for me that I still deal with Marianne with. Things that I never even thought were a problem. That she's like, yeah, that's not normal. And I'm like,
Right.
oh, okay,
Now that I know.
yeah, yeah. But and everybody, I feel like, especially nowadays in low income areas too, they don't have that source of this is right, this is what to
Mhm.
do, or this is where to go if you don't know how to do it.
We all come from similar backgrounds, so definitely had struggles along the same lines. My dad, again, he was dealing with his own demons that he was fighting, and he was
Mhm.
dealing with his own struggles, and he turned to alcohol and drugs and what have you, whatever choice he decided to make.
Right.
And um, growing up, I didn't understand that he was fighting his own battles.
Mhm.
Um, so for me, you know, I was a little kid and I was like, why can't you just be sober? Why can't you just choose me over alcohol or choose me over the drugs just
Mhm.
once? And I didn't understand that he was coming from a place of pain and, that he was struggling with everything that he was struggling with. He was the black sheep of his family his whole life and they love to remind him about it. Every time he comes around his family, they're always talking about how, your dad's the drunk of the family, your dad's this, that, and the other, and blah, blah, blah. And like, once I got older, I realized that, he every time he came around his family, he just got slapped in the face.
Yeah.
And I understood the pain that he was dealing with, but I was 4, 5, 6 at the time. I didn't get all that.
Right.
All I saw was him choosing the drugs over me, or the oxy over me, or the alcohol over me, or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you're just gonna have to. You get to a point where that becomes normal, and you're in a situation where what's normal to you, really shouldn't be normal, and you don't. like you said, you don't know what right looks like.
Mhm.
So when I grew up and I had kids or whatever, the same thing. I didn't know what right looked like as a father,
Mhm.
and then that was hard for me. And like it was honestly terrifying when I found out I was having my first kid. I was like, I don't know what to do with a kid.
Bro, I'm with you, bro. I'm with you,
I
bro.
was like, I damn sure can't do what he did.
Yeah. Again, I know
So,
what not to do.
yeah. So, but I was like, but I don't know how to do it right.
Mhm.
And so, um, I kind of tried to take the lessons that I learned from my mom, but even that, you deal with what she was going through dealing with my dad,
Yeah.
and that wasn't always the right situation. Um,
Did you ever find any good source of advice, if you will? Or did you basically trial by fire? Well, this didn't work. Try something else.
it was a little bit of everything. So I was blessed to have good people in my life. I've got my godparents, the Pitts. They didn't. They were still new parents when I was having my kids, so they were still kind of learning everything as far as parenthood.
Mhm.
But as far as being in like a healthy relationship and stuff like that, like I learned a lot from them. Um, and then my best friend Denzel's grandpa before he passed, um, he was my source of what it meant to be a man, to be a black man in the community. He was kind of where I went when I needed advice. Um, just because my dad was hardly ever sober enough to put together a coherent sentence.
Mhm.
Right.
So, if I asked him, who know what kind of answer I was going to get, but
It wasn't the
it
one
was
you
hardly
needed,
ever a
right?
good one.
Nah.
Right.
But yeah, Pops Fred, he was a great source of information as far as being a man and honesty and integrity and stuff like that. Um, so I kind of picked and choose. It wasn't like one source. It was just like a little lesson from here, a little lesson from there, and I kind of built my own foundation from all the
Everything.
various people around me. So
Mhm.
we built it up that way. So when I had my kids, I was scared to death.
Mhm.
Um, you kind of like you said, you have to pick up the pieces. You have to pick up all the broken pieces
Mhm.
and put together your own picture. And it's a lifelong journey. Once you're at that point already, you're too far too gone. So I have to learn every single day what mistakes I'm making, um, how I could be a better dad and stuff like that. Which everybody does. Nobody's going to start off a perfect parent. Everybody has mistakes that they can
Oh
learn
yeah.
from. But when you have absolutely no basis to start from,
Mhm.
then you're at the back of the race. There's
Right.
people that
Yeah.
start at the front and people start at the back. You're the one at the back,
Yeah.
and you have to start off catching up that ground. So that's kind of how it impacted me, how it impacted my life, and trickling down to my kids and the things that they go through, and my mom and all that kind of stuff. It does affect the people around. And my dad, it was always in his head
Mhm.
that he never put his hands on my mom, which he didn't. He
Mhm.
never put his hands on my mom.
Right.
Um, he wasn't one of those dads that went out and got drunk and beat us or anything like that. So
Right.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that he was a complete terrible person, but just it also wasn't a good basis. It wasn't a good stronghold. We didn't
Right.
have that foundation. And it's something that unfortunately lasts sometimes for generations,
No, yeah.
um, until you can kind of catch up and get back on track, and your family, your kids and their kids and their kids. Each one takes the next step forward. But like I
Mhm.
said, you're starting from the back of the race. So
Yeah, but we taking steps to break that curse though. So
oh, for sure,
yeah.
for sure, we're trying to break generational curses and get our
Yeah.
families and get somewhere to the next step, so our kids can live better. They don't have to
Yeah.
have the same background story that we had.
Yeah. We could
Mhm.
be a little bit better, Not a little bit,
Sure.
a whole lot,
I
but
was gonna say, I'm
it's
trying to get a
like
whole lot better.
but it's hey man, we start from something and it's not always great. Like even when we break down that curse, like our kids are still gonna have like different things that they go through that we might not understand, but we have to talk, ask them, like help them through it. So
One of the things that I think everybody pointed to that in each of our personal background stories, one of the things that we all struggled with was coping mechanisms
mm,
that people took to get through with whatever they were dealing with. whether it was your stepdad and PTSD and army and all that stuff, your dad and financial situation, my dad and his whole family situation and his upbringing. It was their coping mechanisms that really played an impact on our lives. So I just kind of want to run through, just for people out there who may not know or may not realize um, how things are having an impact on the people around them. So let's touch on some negative ones, and then we also want to highlight a few positive ones that people take to deal with stress, and what's the right way and what's the wrong way.
Worse, drugs, bro.
Oh yeah.
Drugs play a big part. Alcohol, even smoking tobacco. Not being open and honest with yourself to find a better way, and being open and honest with the people around you so they know what's going on. That's unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
Overeating, undereating.
Trying to sweep it under the rug, play
Yeah.
it in off is like, oh no, it wasn't that big of a deal.
Not
Like it'll
taking
be all right.
responsibility.
Like no, like sometimes yes, it is a big deal,
Right.
and like it might be embarrassing, but it's a big deal, and you need to deal with it.
Yeah, definitely drugs, alcohol. I think those are the number one coping mechanisms.
They're the easiest to turn to.
That just starts the cycle all over again. Um, and I mean, everybody has moments of weakness. You just can't sit in it.
Mm-hmm.
If you had a bad day or whatever, you're dealing with whatever, and you have a drink, not the best choice, but as long as you limit it to that one drink, if you're going out getting wasted every single day,
Drinking
a
whole
bottle.
handles ain't it.
yeah,
No.
that's not where it's at. Um, being distant from your family, but because you're trying to drown yourself in, drugs and alcohol to deal with whatever you're dealing with, that impacts your family in ways that you don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I know. I when I was younger, I tried to work, just always be at work.
Yeah.
With holidays, I tried to work as many 7-day weeks as I could, because if I'm at work, I don't have to think about anything except work, what I need to do right at this moment. And it's a lot easier doing that in a kitchen because there's so much stuff going on. You don't have time to think about anything else besides what's going on. And it was great for me at the time because I was like, man, like, there's all these problems, but I'm not feeling it. I don't got to deal with it. And then fast forward 10, 12 years, when I'm trying to start a healthy life, I'm like, oh man, I didn't deal with any of this.
It hit you like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, and this is why it's a bad idea to push it under the rug, to try and avoid it.
Yeah, definitely. That brings me to a point. Quick caveat. So, there are positive coping mechanisms,
Yeah.
but you can take any of those and turn it into a negative one.
Mm-hmm.
If you dive too far into it. So work isn't always a terrible thing. If you pick up an extra shift or whatever, you're making money,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
you're not out there drinking, you're not out
But-
there taking drugs. But if it becomes all you know to do to deal with your problems,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, you're not actually facing the problems. You're not actually resolving anything.
Mm-hmm.
You throw yourself into work. You don't have time for your family, kids, relationships, spouse. Um, a couple other ones that I can think of off the top of my head. You can work out,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
but you can take that too far. If you're always in the
course.
gym, that's all you're spending thousands of dollars on whatever gym equipment or protein shakes
Memberships,
or
this and
pills
that.
or whatever you need. Yeah,
It become unhealthy.
yeah, it becomes unhealthy real fast. Therapy is a great option. Just remember that, especially if you have a spouse or anything like that, don't seclude other people
Mm-hmm.
and only go into therapy. It's still okay to be honest with your spouse, honest with
Right.
yourself, honest with your circle of friends around you.
I was talking with one of my previous therapists, and they suggested that in a relationship, both individuals have their own therapist, and then have a separate therapist that is for couples therapy,
Mhm.
that both of your individual therapists talk to that one person, so that you can both deal with your problems individually. But then you've got a biased mediator for the couples that is able to take the information, the problem that she has, the problem that he has, and then say, well, trying to be a unit together. This is how it's done. Now, unfortunately, that can get very expensive, but I mean, there's routes that you can take that are cheap, that are sometimes even free. All you got to do is just go online and look. You know, a lot of people's health insurance will cover it too.
A lot of it is free.
Yeah.
You got to take the time out to find it.
There's stuff out there, you know, if you're willing to take the time, and if you're serious about it and you really want to get better, then you'll put in the work to find those tools, to find what avenues you have at your disposal.
Oh yeah.
What are some of your personal coping mechanisms? What do you do? What do you do, Todd, when you're dealing with something?
Healthy or unhealthy?
Both.
Okay.
Both. Let's get open and honest.
So I still drink entirely too much. On an average day, 10 to 12 drinks. Yeah. 5 years ago, I was drinking for a reason. I was drinking to forget. Well, I guess it would probably have been more than 5 years ago, 7 to 10 years ago. I was drinking to avoid, to forget. Now I'm just more drinking because I'm used to it. What they probably classify as a high functioning alcoholic. But that's definitely the remnants of an unhealthy coping mechanism, where now I just drink because I drink. I really like alcohol. It's, I don't go for the same thing usually every time. I like to switch it up, but it's something that is permanent. It's not a permanent. I can always get help and I can always stop drinking, but it's not a permanent unhealthy like addiction, if you will, because I'm not doing it to cover something up. Which brings to the healthy coping mechanisms. I talk with Marianne a lot. Just having that mode of communication, like I brought up earlier, I'm doing things, I've been doing the same thing for 20 some years, and then I find out with her that's not normal. And that has been able to help me grow, and also at least understand that, one, I've got a lot of problems and she can't deal with them. Not in like, oh, she's gonna leave, whatever, but like she's not a therapist. She's not my therapist. She's my fiance. She's gonna be my wife, but my wife is not my therapist. So she was able to help me understand that these problems that I have, they are serious problems. They're real problems that can be helped if I go to the right source. So that's a healthy coping mechanism that I've done, just the communication, because I never talked about it. But the way I'm probably all the same way, but the way I was raised, you got a problem, there's the rug, put it under there and don't think about it again. And it's like, okay, that's easy. I can do that. Like, fine. And that eventually progressed into me just saying yeah to everything. Like, yeah, okay, that's fine, whatever. But then that ends there. Nothing else goes about that. So just the ability to talk about it has been very healthy. And then also I've been starting therapy sessions with an actual therapist, which is a big help. Finding a therapist is hard. No one talks about that. Finding a good therapist is very hard.
It's expensive too, bro.
It's expensive, and as we said, there are routes that you can go that aren't expensive. But one thing that, especially when I started therapy, didn't understand was you have the ability to choose your therapist. Like, some people think like, oh, I go to one therapist, this is how this person was, this is how everyone is, and now it's not even worth it anymore. But you could shop around, like you shop for clothes, like, let me try this one out, let me try this one on. You can go through one session, and even the first session doesn't even have to be actual therapy. Like, there was one guy that I just sat down for an hour and we just talked. And not about my problems growing up, not about this or the other. It's just like, what do you like? What music do you listen to? Like, how are you growing up? Just those blank questions that help you understand the person. So you can be able to open up to that person. Because like, if it's some straight edge dude that's never seen the harsh side of any city or any life, I'm gonna be like, dude, I'm not gonna tell you about watching my friends get killed, because you don't know that. You don't know how to deal with that because you never dealt with that. And you know, the therapist, so they should know.
Right.
But I mean, it's something that you have to try to make it healthy for you.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I'm going through.
You know, you brought up. We're gonna circle back around to you, Todd, because you brought up some stuff we're gonna get into. But
Yeah.
gonna get into nitty gritty. Nick.
Yeah, negative would probably be shutting people out because I always think that I can deal with everything that's going on in my head and not letting people in. So that's a big one I struggle with. Uh, but positive is more like Todd said, like with my girlfriend, we talk, or we just recently starting talking because of the problem. I'm saying so I'm developing this positive coping mechanism instead of getting drunk because I do that sometimes too. Forget, not on an everyday basis, not blackout drunk neither, but and I'm starting to realize like high anxiety. I smoke more tobacco, so that's a terrible coping mechanism that I'm trying to fix. It just take time, but to elaborate on it, just it's all the things Todd said, man, because I have problems that I deal with it every day from past, present, and just thinking about the future, you know. So we just sit down, try to make life goals, trying to work through all of that. I have high anxiety and little depression too. We'll get into that, but like just wondering what we're gonna do 10 years from now. Like that's something I can't control. Like that's 10 years away. I can just put in the work now to make sure we get to this goal we set 10 years from now.
For me personally, alcohol. Um, I turn to alcohol, you know, and alcohol and tobacco. Um, so that's been the two that, like you said, I know it. I've been addressing it. I've been working on it. Um, Another one that I didn't realize until recently that, you know, I kind of turned into a really bad habit. I like to get in my car and just blast music,
Mm.
which doesn't sound that bad until, you know, I get off work. I could have spent an extra hour and a half with my kids. I'm driving around the city. Gas prices these days, I'm driving around the city,
Yeah.
wasting gas, blasting music because I'm trying to drown myself in my thoughts or whatever. And so I had to kind of stop and, you know, look at myself and evaluate. And it was pulling up to the gas pump, and I was like, I just put gas in this car.
Mhm.
And I, I wasted it all
hurts.
because I had a bad day. And so, you know, I've kind of taken the time to reevaluate myself, and um, I'm trying to turn a negative into a positive. So, you know, what I'll do, I'll go home and blast music in the living room with the kids. And it may not always be the song that I feel like I needed to connect to at that moment.
Mhm.
But what I found is, you know, dancing around the living room with the kids, and you know, I'm still got the music bumping. My neighbors probably hate me most of the time, but um, you know, I find solace in, you know, doing something with my children now,
Mhm.
and they're having a good time. I'm spending time with them actually, instead of just, you know, avoiding them because I need another hour. I need to run through this playlist one more time. Um, and so, you know, that kind of kills two birds with one stone. And you know, like we were talking about earlier, I'm not having such an impact on the people around me, because they enjoy that time. They love it. They don't know that they're finding a lot of joy in times that dad has a bad day, but
Yeah.
But they're helping you through it though.
Hey,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, they're
It's
helping
they're
you
helping
through
me
it.
though. They're
So
helping me through it, and you know, like I said, it's great for them. And once you become a parent, you find that hardly anything ever makes you happier than your kids. So it was
facts.
just me learning that, um, that, you know, like, yeah, I can drive around the block a couple times, but actually, if I just park and go in, I get so much more happiness out of that.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
you know, I might clear my mind a little bit, but I'm probably still in a funk after I get through that playlist. But with my kids, I'm actually in a joyful mood
Mhm.
because they just bring a smile to my face. They're little. You have no choice but to. At the end of the day, you know, like you look back on that hour you spent dancing around the living room, like nothing ever beats that.
No.
But I wanted to circle back to Todd.
Yeah.
'Cause Todd said something that little bold. Todd said, you know, Marianne, your fiance, your future wife, is not your therapist. That's something that I feel like a lot of men don't understand,
Yeah.
and I feel like a lot of women don't understand. definitely you wanna confide in your wife. You wanna confide in your spouse or your
Mhm.
husband or whoever. You wanna confide in them. Um, they are your safe place for sure, 100%, no doubt in that. Um, but men have to understand that their spouse isn't trained properly to
Mhm.
fix those things that they're dealing with.
Mhm.
Women have to understand that they are not trained properly to fix those things that we're dealing with as men, um, and vice versa. You know, we're not equipped to handle all the things that they go through. No, I've been in relationships, a lot of relationships with high anxiety, and
Mhm.
I'm just not going to understand why you get freaked out walking through Walmart. I'm not equipped to be that person.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, I can learn to better ways to handle you in that situation, but as far as understanding being freaked out in Walmart, like I just don't get it. I'm too much of a social person. I love being in Walmart. I love being around 1,000 people. So if you have social anxiety,
Mhm.
you know, I'm not the person who can best help you through that.
Mhm.
Right.
So kind of Todd, I wanted you, because you brought it up, I wanted you to hit on that a little bit.
Yeah. So your mental health is exactly that. Yours. Um, same with me, same with him. And it's something that you will share with your spouse. It's inevitable. Whether or not you talk about it, you're still going to share it. And
Mhm.
I found that out the hard way because of the ways that I am in a relationship or was in a relationship that was built off of what I seen from my parents and even, movies, this, that, and the other, all the information stream that we get that formulated how I am, what my responses are. I never talked to Marianne in the beginning about, well, these are all my problems. This is the trauma that I had. I was just acting how I was acting. Um, and through that, she was able to tell, like, because she's smart and she's a teacher and she works with kids. So she sees a lot of the trauma that I went through firsthand when it is happening.
Mhm.
And she sees that immediate response in the children that she works with, where she's like, oh, well, one of her kids um, came downstairs one day and found his mom dead on the couch, OD'd.
Mhm.
So she can see how that kid is before, how that kid is after, the trauma that happens to him, and everything, and the coping and the behavior of them after. So she was able to tell in me like, oh, the way you act in these situations is probably because of some trauma that you've had. And
Mhm.
she was the first one to bring that up. Be like, listen, and it's never an easy conversation to have
No, sir.
between any significant others when lovingly they come to you and say your actions, your responses to this, it is a bigger problem than your immediate answer. It's the theory behind what you're thinking. Now they can recognize that, like Marianne did, but Marianne, fortunately enough, understands also that it's not her responsibility, therefore, to fix that because she can't fix that. She can try all she wants. And I mean, sometimes even if she was a certified therapist, she cannot fix that. She is too invested. That's why when you have a therapist, you're not supposed to be friends. You're not like, you can become friendly in your sessions. But if it would to be the same if I became your therapist. Like,
Mhm.
I'm your boy. We think similarly. When you say, yo, this was fucked up, I'll be like, yo, dog, that was fucked up. But a therapist needs to be able to say, no, your perception of that was fucked up. And here's why.
Mhm.
And a significant other just can't do that because they want what's best for you. But at the end of the day, it's what they think is what's best for you. And they don't always know what's best for you. I sure as heck don't know what's best for Marianne. I'm not a woman. I thought process is totally different. But I mean, that's not to say that you can't get a female therapist that doesn't understand you. That's not what I'm saying. But I that's not me. And that's not anyone in a relationship because you have to control your emotions, your trauma, and your responses to all of those things. And that's the importance of it, at least understanding that you can talk to them. You should talk to them and be honest with your significant other. But when you find out that that there is a problem, then that is on you to seek help, you to fix it, not by yourself. I would never recommend trying to fix all your problems by yourself. 9 times out of 10, it's not going to work.
Mm-mm.
But it is an important distinction to know you have to deal with it, not your wife, not your husband, not your boyfriend or whatever, girlfriend. It's on you. And people don't.
No.
Yeah.
But I kind of from my experience with when I was going through relationships or whatever, and I was dealing with something, you know, like you said, that they're a great person to confide in, to be open and honest with.
Mhm.
But for me personally, the conversation always became, "This is what I want you to do when you're in those situations," and
Mhm.
what I want you to do
Instead of what
Yeah.
you
Well, that
isn't always what needs to happen.
no,
Like,
and that's not therapy. That's not helping. That's controlling. Where Marianne, she probably said it. I can tell you what to do, but that hasn't changed you at all. You're still going to think about it the same way. You're still going to want to react to it the same way that you reacted to it because nothing's changed. You haven't fixed anything. You just know now I have to do this because she said I have to do it. And that's not healthy either.
no.
You don't want a relationship that's controlling. You want a mutual relationship where, you know, you coexist with each other rather than she does everything I say or I do everything she says. Marianne would probably say I do everything she says because I do. but I mean more in terms of acting and being who you are. I fell in love with Marianne for who she is. She
Right.
does a lot of things to get on my nerves. I do more than that for her. But I don't, with all those annoying things, I don't want her to do anything differently. I don't want her to change how she's acting, this, that, or the other. I can, you know, if she did have trauma, I could say, like, listen, this is just unhealthy that you should look about getting help. But that is not me saying you need to change this.
Right.
And she's done that to me too. And then, like I said before, it's a hard conversation to have. I don't like asking for help. We already established that in the
Yeah.
beginning. None of us do. I don't like admitting that I've got problems. That was a big point of contention between her and I in the beginning of our relationship because especially when you're in a messed up mindset and you hear someone tell you you've got a problem,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, no, like, no, fuck you, no, you got a problem, I'm fine.
It turns defensive at that point.
Yes, yeah, and it shouldn't but that's part of the mental problems that I had that I don't even know how to like connect to myself to be like, yeah, this isn't right. And I just lash out, I'm mad because I don't have that healthy way of dealing with it. But
Awesome. I think
Bro,
that's
you hit
something
it on the
great.
head,
Yeah.
bro.
That's something great. Everybody needs to hear, and we'd
Sir.
love to pick your brain as you're going through this marriage process and everything. It's great advice for people who are looking to do the same thing and, you know, want to do it the right way and, you know, take care of these issues in a healthy manner. I think a lot of people don't realize, you know, the different kinds of trauma when they've been through. Sometimes you just don't know you've been through a traumatic event. You know, there's the obvious ones, you know, loss or anything like that. But then there's little things that you go through on a day in and day out basis that just,
That's constant.
yeah, that causes trauma in your life, and you don't even know that you're going through it. So I kind of wanted to take, you know, we kind of went through and got all the medical definitions for the different kinds of trauma, just for people who don't know. First one was acute trauma, something that happens from a single incident. So a lot of times I feel like that's, you know, your bigger, more easily identifiable situations, death or loss or major
say-
surgery,
Right.
you know, anything like that.
I say I saw when I was in Georgia, I saw one of my friends get stabbed in the stomach by someone that was robbing a gas station. They were on their way out. He was in the doorway, just right in the stomach. Ended up bleeding out right in front of us. You know, called ambulance. They didn't get there in time. That's acute trauma. One time, fucked up, traumatized,
Single incident.
single incident.
Another one is chronic trauma, which is repeated and prolonged, such as domestic violence or abuse. Um, and that one, you can get into a little bit more just because, especially with situations of domestic violence, people who are in those situations
Mhm.
try to downplay it. Um, they make excuses for it and all this kind of stuff, and just don't even realize how much trauma that they're actually going through.
That
Um,
they will face long after it happened.
oh yeah, oh yeah,
And
uh,
it's, stuff that's not even just violent or abusive,
Verbal.
i.e., your dad constantly being drunk or high. That's a long-term abuse, chronic abuse that's happening constantly. He's not beating you because it doesn't have to be violent, but that's your trauma.
definitely, definitely. And those are the situations that people don't realize that
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
they've been through that situation, or well, they know they've been through the situation, but they don't realize that it's like an actual trauma.
Yeah.
It's a life altering type of thing.
Yeah.
Um, Nick, you said verbal abuse,
Hmm.
social media abuse. Those two,
Yeah.
in these days and age,
Especially these times.
yeah, people just don't talk to each other with respect very much anymore,
No.
and don't realize how much of an impact. You may think that it's all cool, and oh yeah, we've always been like that. A lot of times that stuff goes home with that person.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Um, social media stuff, whatever you put on the internet, and everybody makes a joke about it, and everybody may think that it's all fun and games, until this stuff happens repeatedly to the same person, and you don't
Right.
realize.
Because you don't know what that person's going through on a
Yeah.
day-to-day
Mm-mm.
basis, bro.
And it's easy to do. You just type something up, click send. I don't feel bad about that,
Yeah.
but the
Because they don't have
damage
to
is
take
done.
responsibility for it.
Who was it? Was it Mike Tyson that said a lot of people nowadays talk like they haven't been punched in
In
the
the
mouth?
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I think that social media platforms are a big reason for that, because I can tell you to go kill yourself right now over Facebook, and you might never see me a day in my life, and or whatever. I can insult your mama, and where if I did that in person, we'd be
It's
fighting.
yeah, it's
Them's
different
fighting
out.
words.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
different outcomes.
Yeah. But
And it might not be, but they might hold that personally and
mm-hmm.
really do it because they're just having a bad day or
Mm-hmm.
bad time in their life, and you just don't know it.
Yeah, for sure. Another one I've realized now that I got kids is video games.
Really?
Yeah.
Got on the video games and I heard some stuff
Bruh,
on there. I was
online,
like,
bruh,
oh
them
my
Oh,
yeah.
online.
goodness.
Yeah. Man, back in the day, the
Yeah.
Xbox Live chat.
It's
Whew,
worse
is
now.
it worse now?
Man, come on, man. Them
Yes.
kids,
God damn.
yeah, bruh, they go hard.
They do. And they're on there like, your mom's got cancer. She's going to die. And like, you don't know that kid's mom. You don't even know this kid.
Yeah.
That
What
kid's
the
mom
fuck?
might actually have
Cancer.
cancer.
Right.
And
Golly.
they're bad on there.
Where their parents at?
Yeah. What you mean? You don't need no parents no more, bruh. Look, you can get on there from your phone, bruh. Technology.
On your phone. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
bruh.
right.
Like, bruh, just kids are like subject to that.
It's
Like,
easily
a lot.
accessible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a
Very
lot now.
accessible.
It is very
regardless.
accessible. The third and final one is complex trauma, is exposure to varied and multiple traumatic events, often of an invasive interpersonal nature. Um, so that could be situations like my dad, with the drinking and all that stuff. Also, I hit on it in the very first episode when we were sleeping in the parking lot of the library. That was just to have peace from my dad for a night because he
Mhm.
liked to show up intoxicated at 3 a.m. and pick a fight and try to take the kids out. Even though
Or
we got school in the morning. What you trying to take us out for 3 a.m. for?
Yeah.
what is out there at 3 a.m.
Yeah,
for us?
yeah. So that kind of trauma that people go through is just another one to be on the lookout for. Once you learn to identify those situations in yourself, in your own life, and things that you're going through, then you can start taking the steps to recover, to get better, to handle them differently. So I want to close out today just kind of, where's your mental state at today? How, on a scale of 1 to 10, when it comes to mental health and everything that we've kind of hit on today and things that we're dealing with and our coping mechanisms, as of right this minute, Todd, where would you say you're at?
Hmm.
1 being absolute shitty and 10 being everything. Life's great.
I'm probably like a 4. Recent 4.
Would you attribute that to kind of the stress of getting married?
No, the recent 4 has gone up from 3. The wedding isn't that all bad, but I've gone up because of Marianne, because I hyperfixate on everything. I've got pretty big depression. I've got ADHD,
Mhm.
and high anxiety, and all of those love to play right into each other, which is terrible. But on top of that, I think working in the kitchens has not helped. Just through my entire childhood, I've felt secluded and cut off and, kind of unwanted. And then I move into a kitchen where the environment is just as harsh in many other ways. I've seen chefs get, pans of hot oil thrown at them for messing up.
That's
So
a
that one,
felony,
that
bro. That is
that one was
jail
bad. That
time.
was when I was 15. I was actually a dishwasher at that restaurant.
Dude, bro, you should have called the police, bro. No, sir.
Bro, you think that's bad? You should imagine what actually happened that's worse than that in kitchens, especially back in the day.
People don't realize how much we go through back there.
Mm-hmm.
But you said Marianne, you feel like it's helping. So
Yeah, it's helped. She brought it up to a 4, but just with all that still going on, and I still haven't fixed the problems that I have, sits me right around a 4.
Awesome. We'll check back with you in a couple weeks. Hopefully, we can get it up to
Yes,
at least a 5.
Yeah, right.
Nick,
I'm shooting for 11 for you, bro. Don't worry. I got your back. Well, I say mine probably is a 3. Only because that I deal with depression big right now. Like from just recent events in life. Like y'all both know. Like my brother OD, like not like what, February?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that was my dog. So that took a lot from me. And just death in general, when I lost both my grandmothers, like they was my safety nets. So it just felt like I lost the world. And it didn't help because I used to think, like when I had my daughter, 2 days later, my grandmother had a stroke and was in a coma. And she passed. Okay, fast forward 2 years later, I had my son. My other grandmother dies 2 days before I have my son. So I used to think having kids was connected to that. It's like the old saying of you bring a life, we take a life.
Mm-hmm.
And that mess, it still messes with me. Because, like, it's like I didn't get to say bye because I was too focused on what was going on at that point, and I hated myself for that. But I started to realize like that's something I can't control. And then to, like I said, my brother, like now it's just sometimes I just get in a state where it's just like I miss him. He's in a better place. He's like for sure. He's not doing drugs. He's like, so I'm okay with that. But it's still hard for me to understand why he left. Because we talked about trying to get help. We talked about, hey man, look, just come stay with me a week. So you ain't got to be around that environment. And you seen it firsthand. Like we was at work when I got that call. I could barely even get it out like what was wrong. Like, bro, I just broke. And I still break from time to time. It's okay, like, but like that just it still messes with me. Like, even with like I told you, I seclude myself from people. Like it kind of messes up relationships. Like me and my girlfriend, we go through it because it's like I don't know what to tell you. It's like because I think I could, like I said, I can deal with it by myself, and it's a problem. But is I'm trying is the best way I can be. So with this, and what's helping is this podcast, doing it, talking about it, being open and honest, and I feel as though I get back right, especially with the steps and probably get some therapy soon enough, like because it's weighing heavy mentally.
What about you,
Cool.
Quiz?
As of today, I'd probably say a 2. Um, just because well, I told you the other day, but Ashley's dad just passed away this past Saturday,
Mm,
and walking through her with that process, and my kids losing a granddad,
mhm,
um, and my 3-year-old doesn't quite understand. She asked me this morning, "Can I go see Grandpa Kevin?"
mhm.
I just didn't. I ignored her and acted like I didn't hear her because I didn't know what to say to her.
Right.
Um, so, and I've been through a lot of death in my life, to the point where I thought I was just numb to it.
Mhm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
but it being this close to home and actually helping somebody, make all the funeral arrangements, even though I've lost plenty of friends and relatives and people very close to me. Um, I was always on the outside of the arrangement making process. So, being there with her and calling funeral homes and getting medical records and all that kind of stuff, it hits a little bit different.
Mhm.
Um, and then, just right before that, I thought I was already stressing before that happened. Because I'm blessed to have multiple vehicles and all of them got issues and trying to get all that and just all these unexpected expenses and stuff like that. School's coming up around the corner. I was just already stressed, and then that hit. So I'm pretty low right now, but I got a good group of guys that I can talk to and be around and take a
Mm-hmm.
break from everything that I'm dealing with and come record a podcast and feel better that I'm doing something to give back. You
Better
know,
days ahead, bro.
yeah. So I'm doing something for other people besides myself, and that makes me feel a little bit better. That maybe somebody will hear this and they happen to be going through this situation at the time that they hear this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just know you watch a couple more episodes, you're gonna see me bounce back, and I'll be in a better place, and that person will know that they will get through it.
It's a light at
Um,
the end
yeah. So
or the beginning, however you want to. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah, there is a light somewhere in the tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, two for today. Hopefully, the next episode will be a little bit better. So we always want to leave with an inspirational quote. So our quote of today is by Lori Deshin, and it's "You don't have to be positive all the time. It's perfectly okay to feel sad, angry, annoyed, frustrated, scared, and anxious. Having feelings doesn't make you a negative person; it makes you human." So that's we talked about it a little bit during the episode, but one thing I want to drive home, having feelings makes you a person. It's okay to have feelings. You don't have to be hard all the time.
Oh no.
It was a comedian. I'm gonna have to look it up. I don't remember what comedian said it, but he was like, "You wake up mad at the sun. Like you don't have to be hard all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah,
okay to be, a normal person every now and then." So
it's okay, bro. Hey, man, look, and this it's like we said earlier. It's places to go get help, and what are some of those places?
So the place that I'm looking at is called Cedar Medical Center, and they're actually in Nashville, or Cedar Tree Wellness Center. They're in Nashville over on Trousdale Lane. They do in-person visits, online visits. They got a lot of therapists that are willing to work with your schedule. So I know a lot of people will be like, yo, I don't have time to figure this out. I don't have time to go see a therapist. So if you contact them, they're more than willing to help out on your time. They also, help out financially. There's another app that's called Better Health or Better Help, and that one's got free therapy, to where anyone can download the app. You fill out a form, and they'll get you all set up with it. Both of those are really great routes to go through.
awesome, definitely. Yeah, we'll provide links for both of those in the description box below. Other than that, there is a new. I don't know if you guys have heard about this yet, but they're creating a new nationwide hotline um, for suicide and mental health crises. The number will be 988. So it'll be nationwide. I believe that they're still laying the blueprint. I'll have to look into it and get you guys a little bit more information. We'll provide that in the comments. Um, but the plan is for it to be, you know, kind of a easy number to remember. Emergency, you know, fast, get you help, get you somebody to talk to. So definitely, guys, if you're going through anything, you need help, reach out to some kind of wellness center, some type of therapist, call the hotline. Just know that you're never by yourself.
Not alone.
You can message us, you know, we'll take the time to sit there and chat with you and
If you just need to
our,
talk,
yeah, we'll
Mhm.
provide a listening ear. And, you know, we've all been through stuff. We've got varied backgrounds, so we definitely like to chat and help with anybody. So other than that, it's been real, guys.
yes, sir.
Mhm.
Hey guys, don't forget, like, subscribe, and follow No BS Podcast.
Definitely. Descriptions or the links to all our social medias will be in the description box below as well. See you guys next time.